The confirmation hearing for Secretary of Defense nominee Pete Hegseth took place in the Senate Armed Services Committee chambers in Washington, D.C. During the proceedings, Hegseth and senators painted a stark picture of the challenges facing the U.S. Armed Forces. A recruitment crisis with a 42,000-person deficit has left the military struggling to meet its personnel needs. Meanwhile, the cost continues to rise, readiness declines, and morale falters. Senator Reid wastes no time. He declares Pete Hegseth unfit for the role, questioning his ability to lead the Department of Defense. His words set a confrontational tone early in the meeting.
Ongoing violence in the Middle East has teetered on the edge of all-out war, and the ideologies and actions of violent extremists endanger our citizens, even on our own soil, as the recent tragedy in New Orleans painfully reminds us. The Secretary is expected to be a fair, nonpartisan, and responsible leader, as well as a trustworthy advocate for the men and women that he leads. Mr. Hegseth, I do not believe that you are qualified to meet the overwhelming demands of this job.
Another senator takes it even further. He challenges Hegseth's personal integrity, raising questions about his loyalty to his family and recent controversies surrounding his personal life. The attack is sharp and personal.
So you think you are completely cleared because you committed no crime? That's your definition of cleared? You had just fathered a child 2 months before by a woman that was not your wife. I am shocked that you would stand here and say you're completely cleared.
Senator Coleman counters. He dismisses these criticisms, instead praising Hegseth as the ideal candidate to rebuild the Pentagon.
4 years ago, President Biden's nominee, Lloyd Austin, a good and honorable man, received 97 votes on the floor of the Senate. And we went through the debacle of the Afghanistan withdrawal. Putin invaded Ukraine. The Houthis endanger our shipping lanes. We witnessed Israeli miracles against America's enemies in the Middle East, where the United States was more of an impediment than a help. Our recruitment numbers have sunk dramatically, and our southern border has suffered a slow but dangerous invasion. Yes, Pete Hegseth is an out-of-the-box nominee, and I say it's high time to get out of the box.
Senator Walt reinforces this stance. He paints a stark picture of the military decline, suffering from recruitment shortages, outdated strategies, and leadership failures. He stresses the need for bold leadership and insists that Hegseth is the man for the job.
That he is going to get the Pentagon back to its primary mission, lethal readiness. That warrior ethos is what our enemies will respect. That warrior ethos is what our enemies will fear, and it's that warrior ethos that will keep the peace. And so, ladies and gentlemen, in my humble opinion, our military deserves better than it's getting. Our country faces a devastating recruitment crisis. Men and women are not volunteering to serve at the levels required. Our readiness is down. Our costs are up. And it seems like nearly every major weapon system, again, often discussed in this very room, is costing too much, delivering too little, and taking way too long. The bottom line is the status quo is unacceptable. It's not working. And the members of this committee, you all know it. You know it's not working. And the members of the House Armed Services know it's not working. And we have hearing after hearing, year after year. And here we are decades later describing the same problems. The Pentagon has continuously failed audits. The businesses that want to do business with the Pentagon have to pass an audit, but the entity itself fails an audit. Innovation is stalled, morale is down, standards have been weakened, and meritocracy is less valued. And as a result, our adversaries have been emboldened all over the world. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for change. It is time for change.
Pete Hegseth, in his speech, did not waver in the face of adverse remarks or the declaration that he was unfit to lead the world's most formidable armed forces, nor did he respond to the charges of being unfaithful. Instead, he presented his three-point agenda to revive and reinvent the Pentagon, ensuring the continued dominance of the U.S. military.
If confirmed, I'm going to work with President Trump and this committee to, 1, restore the warrior ethos to the Pentagon and throughout our fighting force, In doing so, we will reestablish trust in our military, addressing the recruiting crisis, the retention crisis, and readiness crisis in our ranks. The strength of our military is our unity and our shared purpose, not our differences. Number two, we're going to rebuild our military, always matching threats to capabilities. This includes reviving our defense industrial base, reforming the acquisitions process, as you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, no more valley of death for new defense companies, modernizing our nuclear triad, ensuring the Pentagon can pass an audit, and rapidly fielding emerging technologies. And number three, we're going to reestablish deterrence. First and foremost, we will defend our homeland, our borders, and our skies. Second, we will work with our partners and allies to deter aggression in the Indo-Pacific from the Communist Chinese. And finally, we will responsibly end wars to ensure that we prioritize our resources to reorient to larger threats.
The hearing takes an emotional turn. Hegseth speaks passionately about the service members expelled under Biden's vaccine mandate, thousands discharged for refusing experimental COVID-19 vaccines, many left without support, many suffering from side effects.
He knows what it's like to be excluded. A tattoo of the Jerusalem cross, deeply rooted in Christian tradition, got him banned from serving with his National Guard unit. His voice is steady, but his words are charged with frustration. Where has the status quo gotten us? Hegseth paints a sobering picture. Bloated budgets, underperforming systems, defense projects plagued by delays, a weakened military edge, policies like diversity, equity, and inclusion meant to unify, but instead divide and demoralizing the force. Meanwhile, adversaries like China grow stronger, their military advances at a rapid pace, while America struggles with stagnation.
One of the biggest obstacles, the Valley of Death, a term used to describe critical gap where new military technologies full of potential never make it past development. Caught in a web of funding shortages, bureaucracy, and competition from defense giants.
Even America's nuclear triad, designed for deterrence, is not as strong as it seems. Intercontinental ballistic missiles, stealth submarines, strategic bombers, Hegseth warns, vulnerabilities exist. Adversaries are watching.
But he has a plan, a vision to rebuild the military in 3 steps. Number 1, restore the warrior ethos. Bring back commitment to mission success, loyalty, and resilience. 2, modernize defense. Cut inefficiencies, improve technology, ensure the Pentagon can finally pass an audit. 3, strengthen deterrence. Secure U.S. borders, reinforce alliances, push back against rising threats, especially from China. His focus on China is clear. While Russia remains a concern, China's ambitions are greater, militarily, economically, and geopolitically. Hegseth believes the U.S. must stand firm, but it raises a question. Must America always define itself by its enemies? China denies being a threat, advocating for cooperation instead. In a world that is more connected than ever, should confrontation give way to collaboration?
The world stands at a crossroads. Nations possess enough destructive power to wipe out humanity many times over. The cycle of conflict must end. Instead, global challenges, climate change, economic stability, and security demand unity, not division.
As America makes its next move, the choice is clear. Continue down the path of dominance and rivalry, or lead the world towards shared progress and peace. The answer will define the future, not just for America, but for the world.